Hello everyone, this is LW Gaming and welcome to a brand new installment of Future Langrisser. And today is September 8th, 2025 edition, and by the time recording today is the 5th of September. So yes, I'm recording this in advance, as usual when I do this kind of content. So this time around we got two new heroes coming to the game in the near future. Of course, CN is going to get them first, as usual, of course. And let's take a look at what they are about. So I gotta say, these two can be something that you want to pull for because these two are really good in their own ways. So let's get right into it. So first off, we got the first new hero. Her name is Sibel, and she's a physical DPS, which basically she relies on her dragon buddy, or I should say, I think it's a Draco, whatever it is, but it's like a little dragon that she accompanied with. And the faction she is part of are Origins of Light, Empire's Honor, and Strategic Masters. And the classes she has are Infantry and Cavalry. So you might be wondering what is with her and the dragon. Well, because her dragon is literally her assist buddy. Like when under certain conditions in some of her skills, the dragon will assist and enter combat. So think of that dragon as Dragon Slayer, but on the attack phase. Something like that. So when using her 2C skill, which is usually called like Predator's Pursuit, but I'll call this one Pursuit for short, and also just for YouTube's sake, because YouTube doesn't like the word pred. I don't know. Apparently, so yeah. Anyways, I'm just gonna say Pursuit just to simplify it, and also when this happens, when you be able to push the enemy and then make them get bounced by another unit or impassable terrain, kind of like Marie Rose's case. If that happens, that dragon's gonna perform 2 combat attacks. Yes, I'm not even kidding. Not 1 time, but 2 times on that target. So if they survive for some reason on 1 attack, another attack will be actually launched by the dragon. So yeah, when that happens, good luck surviving that. And then 3C is very easy to do. You just attack, and then after combat, the dragon's going to perform an assist on the enemy. Just one time though, so just for balancing. So overall, do I think Sibel is very good? I would say yes. Do I think she's broken? Well, it really comes down to what is the current situation, because if it's at a point where it's where the enemy is so tanky or whatever, it should be alright for anybody, but it's not like broken as Dragon Slayer to be saying. But it's just that it is an interesting mechanic which we never had before. So I mean, it's kind of similar with Dragon Slayer, but that one's on defense, but this one is on the attack. Okay, moving on to the other hero, we got Bianca. So Bianca is a tank. Yep, finally. We haven't got a tank for a while from last time when they introduced Tyrantel. But now we got a new tank that we can use for ourselves. So basically, new toy for tank pushers. No exaggeration, by the way. This is literally a new tank. So Bianca, she is part of Legion of Glory, Empire's Honor, and Meteor Strike. Pretty flexible factions there. And the classes she has are Lancer and Cavalry, which is perfect because Cavalry class is probably preferred in the Apex meta because of the more mobility is better, so that we can reposition herself. But however, I gotta say, I think if you wanted to build her really well, just give her Lancer class because she does something that can make up for the lack of mobility, which I'll talk to you about in a later video. So later in this video, I mean. So anyways, Bianca has two unique Spear and Shield arts, which will activate after you take your turn, and that is under her talent. So if you chose the Shield art, known as Molten Shield, she's gonna gain a shield that is equal to 25% of her HP, and also while in this phase, she cannot get crit no matter what. So even if Lina, for example, Lina with a 100% chance of critting, that is still not gonna occur. All because of this, so which is pretty neat. So that means Bianca is not going to suffer as much. And also, all enemies within 2 blocks of her while in this form is that they won't be able to trigger the act against. which is insane, by the way. So yeah, some people couldn't read and they will actually overlook this. So if you see Bianca, watch out because she is the new unit with the anti-act again. Or as long as she's on defensive form in her spear and shield art. And if Bianca chose the spear burst, the flame spear burst, she'll enter her unique state, which is called Dragon Fire. In this state, she'll gain 20% of increased damage dealt, and also whenever she attacks the enemy, like before combat, she's going to disable the armor effect on enemies. But however, if the target you're attacking is an NPC or a non-hero, that effect will be replaced by damage taken increase of 25%. That's a fair trade-off. And also, both arts last for 2 turns, and you can get them to be triggered again after 4 to 2 turns, depending on star level. At 3 stars, it'll be 4 turns, and at 5 stars and 6 stars, it'll be 2 turns. And then her 2C skill is a Punisher skill against enemies using a skill of their own. So when that occurs, whenever the enemy attacks you with a skill while this buff is active, their attack skill is gonna get an increase of cooldowns of 3 turns. So that means it will take longer for them to get that skill back. Oh, disgusting. And so satisfying. And then Bianca can teleport to the defense terrain or an ally with her unique 1C. So this is the one thing I was talking about earlier. So if your ally is like really far up ahead or somewhat far ahead, I don't know how long is the range, but I don't know if it's like infinite, but it'll be broken if it's infinite. But I think it's like the range of like. Hold on, let me take a look really quick. Okay, I'm back, and it seems like it's only 3 blocks, so it's not that broken. So if your ally is like far ahead, like as long as it's within 3 blocks, Bianca will be able to teleport to that place, like to the nearest tile. And then after which, she's gonna be able to perform an act again on herself, which is super useful with like 3 additional blocks, and then she can attack again. So yep, basically she will be able to cover your team a lot better than most tanks we have so far. Well, excluding some good tanks like Tyrantel and maybe even SP Landius or Christian. Yeah, with Bianca on here, this will give Tank Push another option for like whichever you want to bring for the tank. And of course, like any other tanks, she has a guard skill, and this can also act as a counter range attacks of 2 blocks. And also gain a shield after combat, and then when guarding, she's gonna take 20% less damage, which is nice, because most tanks should have had that in the first place. So yeah, what do I think about Bianca? I would say she is solid. She's a solid unit for another tank option, you know? We haven't had a new tank for a while. That's for sure. Okay, next up let's talk about the new soldiers and new SP soldiers. So this time around, I decided not to include the image, but rather their class types instead as the image. Yeah, I apologize for that. And also this time they did slow down the SP soldier release this time. So previously they released 3 SP soldiers. Now they're slowing it down and put it just 2. Kind of like a similar trend when they reduced the castings from 4 to 2 heroes. So let's take a look what these new soldiers are. So the new soldiers we have is Barbaric. Let's see what this is called. Barbaric Gladiator. This one increases soldiers' attack by 30%. When entering combat, if there are no other enemies within 1 block of the target, gains damage dealt increase of 20%. However, if there are no allies within 1 block of this unit gains damage taken reduced by 20%. So pretty straightforward. So as long as there's no other enemies within the target, like 1 block, like adjacent to them, you're gonna deal more damage. But however, if you have no allies near you, like of 1 block, you're gonna take less damage in return, which is pretty neat. And the next new soldier is an aquatic soldier called Dark Tide Scale. It may not be called like that, but that's the translation as close as I can get. So this is a magic unit, unlike most of the aquatics. So this one treats the damage as magic, and soldier's attack is increased by 30%. When you're in water, units attack ignores melee damage penalty. So this is a ranged soldier, by the way. If you're wondering why is this one like this, and also after that, this soldier reflects 20% of range damage back at the enemy, which is super useful, especially when you're on the defense side. And as for the new SPs, we got Berserker. Berserker is the first, one of those like common units back then. It's like hardly anyone used them nowadays, but now they got the attention and they get the new SPs this time. And by the way, both SP heroes do come with additional heroes, so just keep that in mind. So Berserker's SP form increases the soldier's attack by 15% and crit by 30% before actively entering combat. If there is no ally within one block, soldier's attack is increased by an additional 15%, and the enemy is inflicted with suffer crit plus 20% during combat. That is pretty good upgrade for Berserker. So now let's talk about what heroes can use this additionally. So the 5 heroes that are able to use this soldier are Shem, Sword and Lion Shadow, or known as Z2, Marie Rose, Zion, and Elwyn. Solid choices there. And then the next one we have is Heaven's Guard. And the SP form of this one is that for each block move before combat, soldiers' attack and defense is increased by 15%, and this can be increased up to 45% maximum, which is 3 blocks total. If the block moves before combat is more or equal to 3, the damage scope with the longest cooldown is reduced by 1 turn, which is pretty neat. For like many units, like this is like Leon style, but much more useful. And additional heroes that can use the soldiers are Andriole, Elvis, the upcoming unit in the next MU for us in Global, Helena, Emperor Lovina, and finally Parn from Record of the Lost War. Yeah, so far these new additions are pretty strong, like unlike the last batch. Of course, I'm not saying not all batches are good, but it's just that this is the strong one so far as I've seen. Okay, next up, I never covered this before, but in this update, the game is gonna introduce 3 new enchantments. So, yes, you heard that right. For a long time of this game being running ever since, like we are stuck with the usual enchantments that we've used to a long time, but now we're gonna get into the new ones, which will make the game even more fun, or maybe even complex, depending on how you're gonna take it. So, anyways, let me read through what each of these are. So we got 1 new enchantment for each color. So we got red, green, and blue. So let's read through what each of them does. So we got a new red enchantment called Dawnlight, and I'm only reading this in 4 pieces because two pieces is the same for the colors. So I'm not gonna explain that one again. So as Dawnlight increases for the damage dealt of 10% if you do like a 4-piece. Like a damage dealt is increased by 10% at the start of the combat and after defeating an enemy. Gain 2 stacks of immune to the next debuff, and this can be stacked up to 5 times, and you cannot dispel it unless the enemy put debuffs on them. So this is actually pretty nice because this enchant is like auto debuff immunity on anyone, like no joke. Like basically anyone can use this, and then they'll get like immunity onto the next debuff kind of effect. Because think of this like Rosen Seal or even Ilya, but built in your enchant. Like how crazy is that? Of course, who will be able to use this? I would say I think most DPS units so far, but will we be seeing this like a popular demand when it comes to enchantments? I would say yes, of course. There will be a lot of people going to switch to this one because of how useful it is, like being able to deal more damage and also get themselves debuff immunity as well, of like depending on how many are in there. But I mean you can only get 2 each time, so This will only occur when you start attacking for yourself and after defeating an enemy. So yeah, you'll be able to gain 4 stacks total if both conditions are met, which is absolutely insane if you think about it. Now let's move on to the next enchant. This is a light veil enchant, which is the green one. At the start of the turn, if there are allies adjacent, you'll gain a shield that absorbs damage equal to 10% of your max HP, and this cannot be dispelled. So I could see a lot of things with this one. So this can work well with a tank, because usually tanks do stick together with another unit. So yeah, I can see a scenario that with that being like a very useful for this enchant. But honestly, even though I just say that, doesn't mean this is so strong of an option for tanks, because some people still prefer thorns, like for example Christian, or even Landius, for example. These two are great with thorns. So if you have a thorn build, you don't need a switch. Just saying. But if you really want to be really defensive for whatever reason, you can just swap out for one of the tanks, or even if you're planning to get Bianca, she could be a good candidate for this one, because she can add additional shield on top of her own. And finally, we got the blue enchant, the new blue one, which is called Kindling. I think that's how you call that in this kind of way. So this is a straightforward buff. So all soldier stats are increased by 5%, and also the soldier count is increased by 2. Pretty straightforward and kind of useful too, because with the 2 extra soldiers to your party, this will actually make you deal more damage, which is already insane. So far, all 3 of these new enchants are good in their own ways. And also, I've heard word about the quality of life changes in this update. Is that in this update, you'll be able to do a rollback on the enchants to the previous roll. So, for example, if you accidentally re-roll the enchant where you wanted to keep, but yeah, for whatever reason, your mind kind of slipped, and then you just re-enchant the one that was so good and you regretted it, well, say no more to that mistake, because they're going to do a rollback feature. They're going to add a rollback feature to the interface for the enchant. So if you made a mistake from the previous enchant, you can use that to roll back, which is pretty neat. But of course there will be some catches though, so be aware of that. Next up, let's talk about the new stuff, which is casting pattern skills. So this time we got 2 new ones here. So we got one for Leo Beck. His increases his int by 5%. When using Soul Contract skill, Leo Beck can choose one more ally to apply contract, and the contract effect which will be lasting one more turn. So this on itself is pretty useful in some scenarios, but of course when it comes to PvP, many people said this is mid, which I understand, because we already have a character like Selka with a revive, which is so much better than this one, because unlike this one is actually, this contract doesn't really stay forever, as you can see. So yeah, having Selka with a revive that will stay permanently is actually pretty nice here. But Leo Bex, I don't know, it may work, but at the same time maybe not. But however, the other character has a different story, because this one actually helps him to be even better in PvP. And that character is Hoffman. And I believe many of the strategic players do use him a lot because of how useful he is on the field. So he's getting a casting in this update, which will enable him to do even better. Attack and defense is increased by 5%. If a shield of the kingdom which Hoffman summoned is within 3 blocks of him, his AoE skill span will be increased by 1 block. So that means that he's going to be able to hit more enemies in the area. So yeah, watch out. As long as he's within his shield range, he's going to be able to hit more people. I'm not kidding. He can hit you a lot more now. Think of this like auto balance blade, but on the Lancer class, or maybe even infantry. But I mean, infantry already has balance blade, but you get my point. So Lancer or infantry doesn't matter for Hoffman, because he's going to be able to hit more foes with the 1 additional AoE skill span. Okay, next up we got a new exclusive equipment. This time it goes to Isolde. I mean, she will deserve this because in the current meta of a PvP in Apex, Isolde kind of fell off on the meta because she was kind of replaced by another unit, which is Gaze Succubus. Or well, other units in general, because she's kind of underperformed now because she needs to get up close to the enemy and can be deadly. But now with the meta shift, she's not that great anymore. But with this new exclusive, this could bring her back. So this armor will increase her HP by 10%. When obtaining the will, whatever will you activate, immediately gains an additional effect based on the type of will you activate. So if you activate the red one known as Solitary Journey, you'll get an additional effect where on top of the cannot guard, the enemies can't guard, to this. So this will add this to your effect. So Solitary Journey adds a revive to Isolde, which means that she cannot die by a fatal attack. But however, the catch is you can only use this once, so be aware of that. And then if you activate Resistance, all your skills cooldown are reduced by 3 turns. I think it's a one-time use. Don't think it's like a permanent thing like the yellow will. So speaking of yellow will, if you activate that one, the next time Isolde takes damage, she can perform Act Again. So yikes. So if you hit her while this skill is on, oh my goodness, she's gonna be a dangerous dragon. I mean, in PvE, she's not that dangerous because there's no such thing as like her turn during during the enemy phase. No, that's not gonna work in PvE. But for PvP, that's different because this can make her dangerous. Like if you hit her for whatever reason with AOE or whatever, she's gonna get Act Again on herself, kind of like Gentoki's thing, or maybe Andrele. I don't know how am I gonna describe this, but yeah, that level of danger. So if that happens, yeah, good luck with that. And before we go, there's some stuff we need to talk about here when it comes to banners and events. So the event we're going to expect here is Forbidden Battleground. So that one is coming back in this update. Alongside that, there will be banners to look after. So we got more banners than we expected this time, as you can see. So we got 2 radar banners, one of them for Nonoran and Broken Winged Bird, one known as Hibiscus. Another banner featuring Isolde and Abishai, the unit we just got in Global. We also got the Meteor Strike Destiny banner featuring Hoffman, Wandering Duelist, and Nymph. So yeah, Hoffman is back on the Destiny banner again in this month as well, for CN at least. Dark Reincarnation Destiny banner featuring Epsilon, Listel, and Leo Beck will be there. Princess Alliance Destiny banner featuring Ilya, Tabris, and Makira. Origins of Light Destiny banner featuring the classic units such as Journal Layla, Jugler, and Illustrial. Yep, haven't seen these guys featured for a long time. And finally, the classic Destiny banner featuring Ledin, Rachel, and Ultramuller will be here as well. And that's it for this video. So hope you find this video helpful or informative, and I'll see you all next time.